Dear students, welcome to our class. Your beliefs become your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values, and your values become your destiny. These are the inspirational words of a man who is synonymous with non-violence and freedom. Yes, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, who is fondly referred as the father of nation. Today, let's discuss the chapter titled "And Then Gandhi Came." "And Then Gandhi Came" is an essay on Mahatma Gandhi by his favorite disciple Jawaharlal Nehru. This text is taken from Jawaharlal Nehru's masterpiece book, The Discovery of India. The book Discovery of India is a thesis on Indian culture and history by the Catholic and cosmopolitan mind of Nehru. And the chapter we have is just an excerpt from this book. And we can consider this excerpt as an essay on the powerful personality of Mahatma Gandhi. In this chapter, Nehru explains the context in which Gandhi emerged as a leader in India. Nehru celebrates the coming of Mahatma Gandhi into the political scenario of India. This chapter traces the timely arrival of Gandhiji to Indian politics when our country India was in dire need of such a leadership. He also discusses the mood of India after the First World War, when Gandhi appeared in national politics. He discusses the mood, the pathetic condition of India after the First World War. Now let's have a glance on history. Let's think about First World War and how it affected India, or what was India's participation or contribution in the First World War and how it affected our country. By 1900, European colonization was in full swing. India had endured. We have been suffering British colonialism for almost 200 years. Over that time, the British had taken control of trade and commerce and government in most of the Indian subcontinent. In 1914, Of course, India was a colony of Britain. The First World War broke out between Britain and various other world central powers. While much of the conversation around World War I today surrounds the services and sacrifices of British and other European soldiers, the contributions of the Indian soldiers who served in the war have been largely erased from the pop culture narratives. It wasn't just a war fought by white men. See, in 1914, when the First World War broke out, British government knew that its armed forces were too small to take on the might of the central powers. They need the help of India and its soldiers. India contributed massively to the British war by providing men and resources. More than 1 million Indian soldiers served in World War I as part of British Indian Army, and more than 74,000 soldiers died in the conflict and the rest were wounded. See, almost 1.5 million of 2.5 million men of the British Empire who fought in the First World War were Indian volunteers. Indian government and princes sent large supplies of food, money and ammunition. Indian leaders supported British during the First World War, hoping that we would be rewarded post the war. We would be rewarded with the power of self-government after the war. For its endeavors, India expected to be rewarded with a major move towards independence or at least self-government. Therefore, even the leaders of Indian National Congress and the wealthy princes offered financial and military help. Great sum of money was offered for the purpose of war. You know, India's economy was pushed to bankruptcy after the First World War. And in return, we were in need of self-government. But British never kept their promise. And when it became obvious that it was not going to happen, that we are not going to get independence, the mood in India started changing. The mood in India became more militant. We started organizing, and we organized many uprisings against colonial British government policies. This led the British to fear further resistance. They started resisting, and they started enforcing more harsher policies towards Indians. Indians had thought that the end of the war, end of the First World War, would bring them independence or freedom, progress and peace. But instead, the British rule became more repressive and harsh. The treatment the Indians received were very bad. Indians were disappointed by the treatment they received from Britain. A large section of the people lived in poverty as a result of British policies. People were filled with a bitter sense of humiliation, anger, helplessness, hopelessness, fear and defeatism. Poverty, unemployment was rising because large numbers of people were incapable of any kind of manual or technical work, and they joined the swelling army of unemployment. We Indians didn't know what to do to improve our condition, our situation. This process, this vicious process, colonialism had eaten its way deep into the body and soul of India, poisoning every aspect of our life. And this cruel, all-powerful monster is going to defeat India, destroy India. We seem to be helpless in the grip of this all-powerful monster. Even our leaders have no idea of how to solve this problem. We have become such a derelict nation. It is at this point that Gandhi emerged as a leader among the people. And then Gandhi came. When we were in need of a leader, when we were in need of a leadership, Mahatma Gandhi's arrival at this critical juncture proved to be a turning point in India's struggle for independence. 1918, when the World War ended, when we were in such a kind of a pathetic situation, Mahatma Gandhi, as a savior, as a messiah, has arrived. He initially hovered on the periphery of nationalist politics and later focused on the fight for freedom. When he came, he appeared to be a powerful current of fresh air that made we Indians stretch ourselves, and we took a deep breath. Seeing the great personality of Mahatma Gandhi, we took a deep breath. We were relieved. He was like a beam of light that pierced the darkness and removed the scales from our eyes. He was like a whirlwind to upset many things that was happening in India, even to upset the working of the people's mind. Actually, he is not man who descended from the top. He didn't descend from the top. He emerged from the millions of people. He seemed to emerge from India. He is one among us, speaking our own language. We Indians didn't feel that Gandhi was an outsider. Gandhi renewed the hopes of the people. He spoke against the people who exploited the farmers and workers and kept them poor. He said to the exploiters, "Get off from the backs of the poor peasants and workers. Get rid of the system that produces poverty and misery." He taught the message of fearlessness and truth to the people and encouraged them to act against the injustice that they faced. He believed that everything should be done keeping in mind the welfare of the poor people. So the essence of his teaching was fearlessness and truth, keeping the welfare of the mass. And his primary concern was the welfare of the masses of India. Again, Gandhi understood that fear was the major problem that affected the people of India. He understood that the dominant impulse in India under British rule was that of fear. We were afraid of everything. We were afraid of the British people. We were afraid of the police. We were afraid of the landlords, the officers, and the money lenders. Fear of unemployment, fear of starvation, fear of laws that suppresses, fear of secret service, fear of army, and all people who exploited us. We were afraid. So fear was the most dominant emotion that was in India. Gandhi showed the people that their fears were unnecessary because fear magnified the problems that the people had and made it worse. And Gandhi was able to make the people more courageous. He said the people to be more honest. See, fear is a close companion of falsehood. So truth follows fearlessness. To be fearless, we have to be truthful. So like an expert psychoanalyst, he probed deep into the problems of India and suggested remedies. Finding that the British rule was thriving on the fear in the mind of the people, he asked the people to address this issue straight away. You have to get rid of fear. Be courageous. To be courageous, you have to be truthful first of all. Only if you are truthful, you will be fearless. You will be courageous. You will become courageous. He also taught them to confront reality and not to be afraid of the phantoms created by fear. And according to Gandhi, truth was a working remedy for fear. To get rid of fear, the only thing is to become truthful. So he made a psychological change in the minds of the people of India. Like a psychoanalyst, he probed deep into the patient's past, found out the origins of his complexes, found out the origins of his fears, exposed them to his view, and thus rid him of that burden. So like a psychoanalyst, he cleared the minds of the people of India. He also even generated a feeling of shame at our long submission to the foreign rule. Aren't you ashamed to surrender to a foreign rule? And he created a kind of desire to no longer to submit, whatever the consequences be. His excellent leadership qualities kept the people united. And Gandhiji was always there as a symbol of uncompromising truth. He was a man who practiced what he preached, what he taught. What is truth? Truth is God, and God is goodness. Truth is interpreted differently by different people. Everyone has to believe what they know or feel to be true. Or truth is, at least for an individual, what he feels and knows to be true. In this respect, Gandhiji was extremely truthful. He is a man who practiced what he preached. And thus Gandhi influenced different people in varying degrees. Some changed their lifestyles completely. Some were partly affected. Different people reacted differently. His call of action was twofold. Gandhi wanted people to fight against two things. He wanted people to fight two things. He asked the people to fight against foreign rule. He also asked them to fight against the social evils that existed in India. So his call of action was twofold. First action is challenging and resisting foreign rule. Second was fighting against our own social evils. Social evils like sati, child marriage, etc. The Indian National Congress was not only fighting for Indian independence. The primary or the fundamental objective of Indian National Congress was, of course, the freedom of India, Indian independence. But they were also trying to foster national unity, and they also wanted to solve the problems of minority, untouchability, and depressed classes. Even though the primary concern of Indian National Congress was freedom of India, they were also concerned about national unity, the problems of minorities, the problems of depressed classes, and putting an end to untouchability. And the method adopted by Gandhi was peaceful non-cooperation. What was the method adopted? Peaceful action, peaceful non-cooperation. Objective, freedom of India. His call of action was twofold: resisting and challenging foreign rule and fighting against our own social evils. Objective was the freedom of India, national unity, issues of minorities, depressed classes, etc. And the method adopted was peaceful action. Gandhi understood that the British were able to rule because of the people's fear and the support and cooperation of certain sections of the society who benefited from the British rule. Gandhi attacked these foundations or these elements. He asked such people to give up their titles and to join the freedom struggle. The respect for the British given titles disappeared slowly. New standards and values were set up by Gandhi. Due to Gandhi's effort, the people lost their respect for titles given by the British government. Gandhi also undermined the authority of the Indian princes and the British officers. Gandhi popularized simplicity so much that even the rich people dressed like the poor. Mahatma Gandhi sent his fellow leaders to the villages. in order to invite the poor people to become a part of the freedom movement. Nehru says that he sent us to villages as messengers of the new gospel of action. These visits helped Nehru to learn Indian economics. He says that I learned Indian economics more from these visits than from books and other discourses. I could see the poor villager coming out of the stark hunger, the stark shadow of hunger, following Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhi had a clear vision about the future of India for which he was working. In that India, or the India of Gandhi's dreams, the poorest people would have a sense of belonging. The poorest shall feel that it is their country and in whose making they have an effective voice. That is what is democracy, isn't it? An India in which all communities shall live in perfect harmony. In that India, there would be no class divisions. Different communities would live in perfect harmony. There can be no room for the curse of untouchability. In that country, there would be no role for intoxicating drinks and drugs. Women in that India would enjoy equal rights with men. Gandhi was a proud Hindu, but he considered every religion within the fold of truth. He wanted all cultures to spread their fragrance near his house. But he didn't want to be fully influenced by any single culture. And he clung to his roots tenaciously. Gandhi was a man of powerful personality. He was a great leader and a politician who dedicated his life for his country. Gandhi's life is his message to us. His methods can be followed by our politicians as well. He was an amazingly vital man, full of confidence and unusual kind of power. He stood for equality, freedom for each individual. He fascinated the masses of India like a magnet. He seemed to be a connecting link between the past and the future, and the miserable present just appeared to be a stepping stone to the future of life and hope. Thus, he made a psychological revolution in India. He made a psychological change not only among his friends and followers, but also among his opponents and even neutrals. Thus, he became Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi had a dream. He wanted to build India in accordance with this dream and present this India to the world as a blueprint of development which would be just and sustainable. realizing the unfinished task of the Mahatma alone will be a befitting memorial to the one whom we revere as the father of the nation. Gandhiji's influence is far-reaching. It continues even today. So there ends the chapter. I have given a summary of the whole chapter. You should read the chapter once again. Okay.